Shipshewana, Indiana has a population of 756 people. 756. I want you to hold that number in your head because the Amish settlement surrounding that town numbers 25,000. That's a 33-to-1 ratio of Amish neighbors to in-town residents. And on the county, roads radiating out of Shipshewana on a Wednesday morning, the buggies outnumber the cars. Not as a tourist novelty, as the actual traffic count. Today we're counting down 10 Indiana towns where the Amish don't just live alongside the community, they are the community. And if you're the kind of person who finds places like this quietly fascinating, do me one favor before we go any further. Hit subscribe. I've got a whole map of forgotten and extraordinary American towns, and this one's just the beginning. Number 10, Berne. Berne, Indiana sits in Adams County with just under 4,000 people, and it is the commercial anchor for one of the strictest Amish communities in the entire country. Not the biggest, the strictest. The Adams County settlement was founded in 1852 by Swiss Amish immigrants. Not Pennsylvania Dutch, not Ohio Amish Swiss. From Canton, Berne, Switzerland, which is where the town gets its name. That matters because the Adams County Amish are still operating under an Ordnung, a church rule set that is stricter than nearly anything you'll find in LaGrange or Elkhart. They use open buggies. No roof, no windshield, year-round. In January at 15 degrees below wind chill, the men sit on those benches in long beards and wool coats and wave at every car that passes. Every single one. Because the Ordnung says they must remain visible to God at all times, and a roof would interfere with that. I'll be honest with you. I don't know what to do with that idea. But I haven't been able to forget it since I read it. Downtown Berne has a Swiss bell tower on the south end that chimes on the hour, brick storefronts, furniture warehouses on the highway. Homes in town run $130,000 to $220,000. The surrounding farmland sells above market because Amish families pay cash to keep land in the community. Drive the county roads outside Berne and look at the gravel shoulder. You'll see two sets of parallel grooves worn into the shoulder by steel buggy. Wheels running alongside the asphalt tire tracks. That's not nostalgia. That's infrastructure for a community that doesn't plan on going anywhere. Number 9, Grabill. Grabill is a village of 1,200 people in Allen County, and it does something I find genuinely strange. It draws 50,000 visitors to its annual September Country Fair. In a town of 1,100. That math only works if the thing they're coming to see is something you can't manufacture. And in Grabill's case, it's the Amish market culture that has anchored the village since the Allen County settlement expanded through the 20th century. The town was founded in 1853 by German Lutherans, named for a landowner named Joseph Grabill, who I have found essentially nothing interesting about, but the buildings he helped establish are still there. The Grabill hardware store in a 1903 brick building still operates. Grabill Country Sales sells bulk goods to a mixed Amish-English customer base. The hitching rail outside that store has been continuously present since 1979. And here's the thing that keeps rattling around in my head. Grabill is 20 minutes from downtown Fort Wayne, a city of 270,000 people. So on a Saturday morning, you can stand at that hitching rail and watch a Tesla pull into the parking lot 2 spaces from a buggy. And I've been told, by people who've been there, that the Amish man unloading his wife's groceries doesn't look up. The Tesla driver does, every time. Real estate in the village runs $150,000 to $240,000, and the surrounding township farmland is heavily Amish-owned. It's a commuter suburb with hitching posts, and somehow that makes it more interesting, not less. Number 8, Parker City. Here's one most people don't know. Parker City in Randolph County. Population 1,348. And it's a town that got left behind by the 20th century in the most textbook way possible. Founded as a railroad town in 1853, peaked around 700 residents in 1950, lost its rail service, lost its manufacturing, sat half empty through the 80s and 90s, with peeling storefronts and a public school that eventually closed. That's the standard story for 100 Midwestern small towns. But Parker City has something those other towns don't. The Randolph County Amish settlement, which was established in the 1990s when families from the saturated northern Indiana settlements started pushing south and west looking for cheap farmland, and Randolph County had it. The settlement now numbers somewhere between 800 and 200 Amish. Young families, large households, one-room schoolhouses scattered along the gravel section line roads. And this is the part that still doesn't fully sit right with me. The Amish private schools in the surrounding townships now educate more children than the public schools in Parker City itself. The town's non-Amish population is aging. The Amish population is young and growing at roughly the birth rate you'd expect from communities averaging 6 to 8 children per family. The math of the next 20 years in Parker City is not complicated. Real estate in town runs $70,000 to $140. 0, the cheapest on this list, and Amish buyer activity on surrounding farmland is steady and cash-based. Drive 10 miles of county road in any direction on a Tuesday morning in October, and you'll pass 3 one-room schoolhouses, each with a hitching rail lined with small buggies. The town that got left behind is being quietly rebuilt from the outside in. Number 7. Rockville. Wait. Let me back up for a second and explain why a town best known for covered bridges is on a list about the Amish, because those two things are not as separate as you'd think. Rockville is the seat of Park County, population 2,557, and Park County has 31 historic covered bridges, more than any other county in the United States. The Covered Bridge Festival each October draws roughly 2 million visitors, 2 million people, to a county with a population of 17,000. That doesn't happen without an economic engine, and the engine is largely Amish. The Park County Amish settlement dates to the 1970s, when families relocated from Pennsylvania and Ohio seeking cheaper farmland in the rolling hills of the Wabash River drainage, and it now numbers approximately 2,000 to 2,500 people. By the time the festival grew into what it is today, the Amish supply chain, baked goods, quilts, furniture, produce, roadside stands, had become so deeply woven into the event's identity that an estimated 70% of vendor revenue flows through Amish-made goods. The bridges in the Amish are a single ecosystem. Stand on the Bridgeton Covered Bridge during festival weekend, and you might watch a procession of Amish buggies crossing it, carrying pies to the festival grounds. The bridge was originally built in 1868. Locals say it sounds different under hooves than under tires, a lower, longer resonance through the old wood, and that the old families used to know whose buggy was coming home by the sound. I don't know if that's true or if it's the kind of thing people decide to remember. Either way, it belongs in the story. Number 6. Middlebury. Middlebury in Elkhart County is where the scale starts to shift in a way that's hard to process if you haven't been there. The town has about 3,600 residents. It sits on the eastern edge of the Elkhart-LaGrange Amish settlement, the third largest Amish community on Earth, with more than 25,000 Amish across the two counties. Middlebury's Das Dutchman Essenhaus, a restaurant and inn complex, serves roughly 400,000 visitors a year, built entirely around Amish-style food and hospitality. That's more annual visitors than the population of Tulsa. The Amish arrived in Elkhart County in 1841, which makes this one of the oldest continuous Amish settlements in Indiana, and it has grown at roughly 2 to 3% annually for decades. Pure birth rate growth, almost no outside conversion. Here's the detail I keep coming back to. State Road 13 north of Middlebury has officially painted buggy lanes, maintained by the Indiana Department of Transportation. Indiana is one of the only states in the country with state-maintained buggy infrastructure. On a summer evening on that road, you can drive past an Amish teenager on Rumspringa in a city he doesn't own, and 3 minutes later pass his father in a buggy on the same road, both of them wearing the same suspenders. Real estate in Middlebury runs $220,000 to $380,000, the most expensive on this list because the tourism premium and RV industry proximity push prices up. But the Amish don't sell, they buy, and they've been buying here since 1841. Number 5. Nappanee. Nappanee straddles Elkhart and Kosciuszko counties, population 6,048, and it has a claim I don't think any other town in this video can make. The Amish here are a significant part of the supply chain that builds America, SRVs. The RV industry is centered in Elkhart, the RV capital of the world, as the signs say, and Nappanee's Amish craftsmen have been building cabinets, frames, and interiors for Elkhart's RV plants since the 1980s, when the industry figured out that skilled piece-rate cabinet makers who needed no benefits and brought their own work ethic were exactly what the production lines needed. So you have men in straw hats and suspenders in anonymous metal pole barns along county roads, building the interiors of $400,000 motorhomes they will never drive. I don't know whether to call that irony or just economics. Probably both. Nappanee was founded in 1874 as a railroad town. Amish Acres, the historic Amish farmstead attraction that operated from 1970 to 2019, drew hundreds of thousands of visitors before it closed. Parts have since reopened under new ownership. Real estate runs $180,000 to $290,000. And then there's this moment that I think about more than I probably should. During the 2008 recession, the RV industry cratered, and the Amish in Nappanee lost work along with everyone else. A community defined by self-sufficiency appeared quietly in the unemployment statistics. The local food banks reported a rise in Amish requests for help. Most of those requests were made by the wives by phone while their husbands looked for work. That image, the phone call, the quiet ask, has stayed with me. Number 4. Topeka, LaGrange County. Population 1,158. And if you want to understand how the Amish buggy economy actually functions at a logistical level, where the horses come from, how they move, how a community of 25 Zeusan people keeps its transportation infrastructure running, Topeka is where you start. The Topeka Livestock Auction is one of the largest horse auctions in the Midwest, moving thousands of horses annually. Primarily standardbreds retired from harness racing. A standardbred finishes a racing career at a Pennsylvania track at age 7. Gets sold at auction, sometimes at Topeka, to an Amish farmer at age 10. Lives another 15 years pulling a buggy down a LaGrange County road. That horse ran at Pocono in front of 8,000 fans and ends his life pulling 4 children to a one-room school. The whole Amish horse economy in one animal's biography. The village itself is small: a bank, a hardware store, a feed store, a furniture shop, the auction barn at the edge with horse trailers parked diagonally in the lot. Real estate runs $140,000 to $220,000 in town. The surrounding township is so heavily Amish that on weekday mornings on certain LaGrange County roads, the buggy-to-car ratio tips without anyone having to count it. You just notice, after a while, that you've been waiting behind more horses than trucks. Topeka doesn't market itself. It doesn't need to. It's a working infrastructure town for one of the largest Amish populations on Earth, and it has been since long before anyone thought to call it interesting. Number 3. Odon, Daviess County. This is the one I think gets the least attention relative to how significant it actually is, and I'll be upfront. I think YouTube has massively underserved this settlement. Odon sits at the center of the Daviess County Amish settlement, the largest in Sunzers, Indiana, with approximately 5,500 to 500 Amish, and the Daviess County Amish are a genuinely distinct community from the northern Indiana settlements most people know about. Different church ordnung, different patterns of dress, gray-topped buggies instead of the black-topped ones you see in LaGrange and Elkhart, a different dialect mix, and a level of economic integration: sawmills, harness shops, greenhouses, bulk food operations running at real commercial scale. That makes the phrase self-sufficient community actually mean something rather than just sounding like a compliment. The settlement was established in 1868 by families from Ohio, and it has grown into something genuinely unusual: a rural economy where Amish-owned businesses are not novelties but anchors. The Gasthof Amish Village complex in nearby Montgomery draws hundreds of thousands of visitors annually. Real estate in Odon runs $95,000 to $170,000. And on a Sunday morning, this is the detail I come back to. When the Amish hold church services in a rotating host family's home rather than a Building, the line of black buggies stretches half a mile down the county road. From the air, it apparently looks like a black ribbon laid along the corn. From the road, you hear 200 horses breathing at roughly the same rhythm. Odon doesn't have a famous flea market or a painted buggy lane. It just has the thing itself without the frame around it. Number 2. Geneva. Geneva, Adams County, population 1,233. And here's where we get into territory that is genuinely hard to describe without sounding like I'm making it up. Geneva sits in the inner core of the Adams County Old Order Swiss Amish settlement, the same settlement we mentioned back at number 10, but closer to the center of it, and the word strictest does not fully capture what that means on the ground. The Adams County Swiss Amish speak a dialect of Swiss German that is not mutually intelligible with the Pennsylvania Dutch spoken by most other North American Amish. They arrived from Canton Berne in 1852 and have maintained a level of cultural and linguistic continuity that is, I don't have a better word for it, astonishing. On certain county roads south of Geneva on a Tuesday morning, you can drive 5 miles and pass 6 buggies before you pass 2 cars. Not a metaphor, not an approximation, just the road. Geneva has active hitching rails. Not decorative, not historical preservation, active. Amish-owned bulk food stores, a sawmill, a buggy shop, and the Limberlost State Historic Site on the south edge of town, where Jean Stratton Porter set her 1909 novel A Girl of the Limberlost in the swampy lowlands that still exist in the wet bottoms of the county. And then there's this. The Adams County Swiss Amish still use a yodel-like call across fields to summon family members in from the back 40. A vocal practice carried directly out of Canton Berne in the 1850s, still in active use in 2026. It carries about a half mile in still air. If you stand outside the Slimberlost cabin at dusk, you can hear it cross the cornfield. I don't know what else to tell you. Some things just are what they are. Number 1. Shipshewana, and here we are. Shipshewana, LaGrange County, population 756. Let me just let that sit for a second. 756 people in the town. And surrounding it, in the farmhouses spaced at quarter-mile intervals along the county roads, in the one-room schoolhouses on the section lines, in the dairy barns and buggy shops and furniture workshops along State Road 5. A 25,000-person Amish settlement, the Elkhart-LaGrange community, the third largest Amish settlement on Earth, and Shipshewana is the town it orbits. The Shipshewana flea market opened in 1922, which means it has been the commercial center of one of the world's largest Amish communities for over 100 years. It draws roughly 1 million visitors per year to a town of 756 people. The Shipshewana auction moves livestock, antiques, and horses every Wednesday, year-round, and has for decades. The Blue Gate Hotel Restaurant Theater Complex runs a full hospitality operation. Yoder Department Store has been open since 1916. There are hitching rails on every block. Not one block. Every block. Park your car on a side street off Morton Street on a Wednesday morning at 7 a.m. This is what you'll hear, in this order. Hooves. If even one of these 10 towns did something to you, made you want to find it on a map, made you wonder what you'd hear if you stood still long enough, made you think about what a community looks like when it doesn't shrink, drop the town name in the comments. I read every one of them, and I genuinely want to know which one hit hardest. If it was Shipshewana, I'm not surprised. If it was Geneva or Parker City or one of the ones nobody talks about, tell me that, because those are the ones I want to keep making videos about. Share this with the person in your life who's always talking about getting off the grid or moving somewhere quiet or just slowing down, because these places exist and they're not metaphors. And the subscribe button is right there. You already know what to do.